Hello and welcome back to another episode of WRTV. I'm Chloe Friesen.
I'm Daniel McIntyre-Ridd.
There we go. And we are thrilled to have two wonderful guests here. We got our friends Liam and Joanna, both music students, both lovely people also. Like, I don't want to reduce you to just being a music student.
Yeah, your first thing is that they're music students. That's sort of their defining characteristic.
Yeah, I define myself as a comm student. Like I say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm a comm student. That's how I do it.
That's true. That is a bit of a meme though. Anyways, yeah, well, thank you for tuning back into us. Hopefully you're watching this on the YouTubes, and thank you for the awesome reception that our last episode got. That was super fun to do. It was super fun to see the reception that it got.
Yeah, David tweeted about it. I was thrilled. I've never been more thrilled.
Yeah, we got listeners from BC, although they might have been related to
They're
Chloe.
Related to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still going to call that reach.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is reach. YouTube analytics say so. One of the topics that came up and one of the main things that came up in that conversation that we had is talking about, learning over Zoom. And it was cool to get a professor's perspective on it. And Chloe and I both definitely have perspectives of it as normal students. But in sitting down and thinking, I mean, CMU has such a great music learning program. And one of the great things about the fact that CMU started doing in-person stuff was that you guys were able to actually, practice music and learn in person. Obviously that's changed now, but we thought we'd get you guys in to talk a little bit about your experiences with this year and this pandemic era and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you folks want to introduce yourself before we get going?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Joanna Loepp-Thiessen. I'm from Kitchener, Ontario. Hi. And I am a voice performance major in my 4th out of 5th year. I transferred to CMU last year after having taken a couple years off. And yeah, I guess I'm thinking today, I've spent this year kind of comparing this year versus last year. And so Liam will offer a different perspective, not having been here last year. So yeah, really happy to be here today to chat about all the wacky things that are happening. I just got off a choir Zoom call before this. So yeah, party time.
Yeah, I'm Liam Berry. I was raised in Kitchener until I was about 10. Yeah.
What?
Coincidence there. Cool. And then my family moved to Winnipeg. And I mean, this is my second time in university now. I was studying theater for a while when I was 18, so that's about, I guess, six years ago, 7 years ago. Oh boy,
that's scary.
And and so kind of between studying theater and starting here, I just kind of spent some time teaching piano and composing for short films and video games and stuff. And now I'm starting here in my first year back at university. In a music program, so that's pretty exciting.
You chose a good year to come back, Liam.
I couldn't have timed it better, yeah.
Well, I guess we can jump right into it. I think that going off of what you said, Liam, if I'm not mistaken, the reason that you decided to come to CMU, one of the big reasons was the fact that we were doing online or not online learning, actual in-person learning.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of reasons. I mean, it's just a super nice place, but yeah, a big part of it was that it was the class sizes were small enough that A, you got to get to know people, and B, we could still do stuff in person, if not for the whole year as we found out, but certainly for a large part of it, and hopefully come later, next term back a bit too, right? So, it's pretty cool that the school can be that versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for Joanna, what are some of the changes that you've seen in the music faculty, in the learning settings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll kind of mostly discuss kind of up until November when we were in person. I think the biggest things are practical lessons, so like voice lessons and choir would be, or ensembles in general. I can't speak to any of the instrumental ensembles or other instrumental lessons. But going from, you have your weekly lesson, which is for credit, that's part of your program, and going from that to Outdoor lessons we did at for the first couple of weeks of the year, which was awesome because you didn't have to wear a mask, and it was just a bit easier. And then once we moved inside, then we were doing only half an hour, because studies are showing that you kind of can't sing for more than half an hour without kind of a higher risk. So we would sing with masks on for half an hour. And so that was a big shift, going from an hour in person to 30 minutes in person with a mask on 5 meters apart. So that definitely posed some unique challenges. I've actually been really grateful to switch on to Zoom from that because you're close up and personal, and it's actually been a really good setup for me personally. I can't speak to others' experiences, but I've enjoyed that particular aspect of being a music student right now. In terms of choir compared to last year, I mean, the thing about choir is it's so often performance oriented. So going from like your goals are these weekend performances that are honestly, a couple times a month. It's a heavy load, which is great. This year, the focus has been a little bit more on like people's individual voices, because we're on our own. And so that's all you can really do is try and like refine our technique on our own. We haven't really delved into the world of like virtual choir in terms of like everyone recording their own thing and putting it together, because that requires quite a lot of work on that to put on someone. And as much as that would be awesome, I think that's not something we'll do before Christmas, potentially later in the year. But yeah, I would say those are the biggest changes that I've felt in terms of classes themselves, kind of the same impacts as every other academic field.
I was going to say, I remember at the beginning of the semester walking from my apartment to a class and just seeing a group of students standing in a circle and just singing so beautifully. It was such a joy to hear those practices outside. Sometimes I would just open my window because you guys would be in the field, and it was incredible.
I can't say that I ever got that experience, but every now and then when I'd be pulling my bike into Northside and there'd be somebody standing outside the garage and singing into the garage, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good way to get around it. Joanna, you mentioned this way of doing a virtual choir where you record it and you put your own stuff together. Obviously, that's not something that would happen in a non-pandemic world, but is that a skill that some music students are having to learn because of this? Is a recording and an editing side of things?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, instead of a textbook this year, I mean, we don't normally have textbooks, but most of us have bought a recording device, like a Zoom recording device, it's called, I think. I know Chloe has one. Yeah,
I just steal it from the library. It's not my own, sadly.
Very good. Yeah, so we have had to do that a little bit. Actually, this weekend, I am doing a competition, but it's essentially I hired someone to play the track of the piano part, and then I sing over top of that, and then record the video on my phone and the audio on my recording device and put them together. And that's very much a new skill for me. And I think potentially will be stress-inducing, but we will see. It's not a natural thing, but I think it'll be really cool for people to build their skills, especially, like for sharing their music with the world. And I think it's actually a really important skill, and I'm glad that we're being forced to do that a little bit.
Oh, I love the positivity here. My goodness. Also, Liam, I noticed when Dan was asking his question, he had said something about like, this is something that we're doing now that we're in a pandemic, and you were shaking your head.
Well, yeah, I mean, people have done virtual choirs for a long time. It's not necessarily a new innovation that came out this year. I mean, I think the most famous one is probably the Eric Whitacre choir. And I don't know many details with it, but that's been going on for quite a few years. So the technology has existed, and people have been experimenting with it for a long time. Yeah, I have some friends who've done a lot of just messing around, like choirs with themselves and stuff like that, right? Yeah, so it's existed, but it's definitely gotten a lot more utility. It's experienced much more use as a genre than it ever has before.
Kind of like forced into it more than anything else at this point. Is that something that you'd ever thought? You probably have to do a degree of that too, but you're probably more familiar with it. Is this something that you ever thought you would be doing? Was it something you like looked into?
Um, sorry,
Like
singing in choir, was it, or doing a virtual choir?
doing a virtual choir.
Putting it together. I mean, I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's pretty fun. I'd never planned on doing it myself, because this is my first year singing. This is my first year in choir. So it's all a very new experience to me. I really don't have much choir experience before this. So just me personally, for my own creativity, I've never done it, but it's it's almost exactly the same as a lot of the stuff I was doing, recording stuff for short films and things. It's you record the part and you stick it in and you work it and you get it all lined up and make sure everyone's playing to a metronome. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things. You guys are definitely at least familiar with technology in the sense that you can at least kind of navigate your way around it. One of the things that I think all professors this year have had to kind of work through is learning technology themselves and like to be able to teach through it. And as you guys are talking, I can't imagine, like, you guys have to learn how to edit stuff too, but so do the professors. They have to teach you how to edit that stuff potentially. So I mean, I guess a shout out to them too. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, I would say it's mostly a self-taught kind of situation. Like I haven't received a ton of guidance in that area, and that's no fault of anyone's. It's just, that's sort of how it is. But I actually think it would be an interesting conversation to talk about potentially including some kind of core requirement for music students to take some kind of like communications course. I don't know. I think that would be cool.
Ooh, common music
for another
students coming
time.
together.
But I don't know. I think that would be cool because I think it's an important skill, and we are moving into it. We are in a digital age as it is, regardless of the pandemic, and I think it would be important. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. My question is, you guys have been like super positive about this whole thing, but now let's lament a little bit. What do you guys miss most about
What are
music?
the rules on swearing on Wittenberg radio? I'm gonna say no.
You know what? Because this isn't live, I could bleep it out.
We can go back. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kidding, but they're in my heart. Yeah, it sucks. Make sure you bleep that out.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's kind of like, yeah, like there's a unique, I think, I feel for the first years in a unique way, and I feel for people that are like comparing to other years in a unique way. Particularly this weekend would have been like the Christmas at CMU, which is like this huge thing, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, big choral celebration, and it's just like a ton of fun. And I think not having that, it's just like, man, Christmas without choir music is like not something I'm used to. Not having, I mean, I'm a performance student, so the whole thing is that you prepare like an opera workshop, like you do an opera workshop class and you prepare a performance and you do recitals and that sort of thing. And I'm not graduating, so I'm not working on a digital graduation recital, but I have friends that are, and that's just like really hard. Learning to like sing on top of a track and not have any control or collaboration with the pianist is really hard. And there's just so many other ways that it's just been a huge challenge. And I think the intentions at the beginning of the year for like doing virtual recitals and all of these things were really good. And there were really good ideas in place, and people's stress levels and mental health and all of these pieces have kind of just caused that not to really pan out. I'm not going to speak for all of the reasons why those haven't occurred, but I think that's definitely a big challenge. And I think we were actually talking about this in my philosophy of pain class, but there's this kind of like multitasking required as a music student to like create alongside this like academic focus. And that has been especially hard in a pandemic, I feel. So like actually create and like emote in the same way that I'm used to being able to like give that time to a piece. So yeah, those would be my main laments. But overall, positive outlook, because that positive outlook is modeled by the professors really well.
Aw.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've been really appreciating is, I mean, everyone has seen you, but especially the professors have this really incredibly positive attitude, and it's just like, hey, we're going to make the best of this, and we're going to just keep on doing the best we can, and there's yeah, there's lamenting, but it really is like, hey, we're gonna just keep moving forward. And that's what we do. We're musicians. That's what you do. You know, you just keep it going, which is pretty incredible. Um, and I really appreciated that. Yeah, there's definitely some things that are going to be tough. Like I don't know, handbells are just kind of done now. So we don't have handbells at home, so we can't.
There's no
I
Zoom
mean,
handbells?
just no, unfortunately, no. We did like one class on Zoom, and you know, I had various jars set up with little notes just taped to them, being like C sharp, D sharp, you know, that kind of thing. And I was just like ringing my jars, which is fun. It was surprisingly fun. Or like wooden spoons and stuff. It was good. And it was a bit of a mental workout. It was a lot of fun, but it just like it doesn't really pan out in terms of like putting together a virtual performance or anything like that, right? Like you can't. So yeah, there's losses there, which is too bad. But, yeah,
We've talked a lot
imagine-
about. I was going to
just
say
gonna
we've
quickly
talked.
say, oh no.
The Zoom lag is getting to us. Go for it,
Oh
Chloe.
no. Okay, I was just gonna say how amazing would it be? You know how there's like Guitar Hero video game? Handbell Hero.
yeah.
That's like the same thing,
No
though. You're just
kidding.
pressing the button, right? I don't get what.
Yeah, except for
okay.
their bells.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I was going to say that we've talked a lot about the vocal side of CMU's music faculty. But I can imagine that Liam, as a piano player, that's got to be more difficult to practice over Zoom than voice.
I don't know. I mean, certainly, the piano lessons, individual piano lessons, I find are much easier than say choir, because there is back and forth. You know, with choir, you know, we're all muted. We can work on our own voices, but the professors they can't hear us. Whereas you know, you're doing a piano lesson, the private instruction, there is you know, the professor can hear us, so it's easier that way.
Yeah, I would say that's a hot take, and I disagree.
Okay. It might be really different for voice because voice and piano are very different instruments, and yeah, I mean there's a lot. Yeah, it's definitely not the same, and there is a lot that's kind of missed. You know, with piano, like there's a lot of like intonation and like tone production, and just like the sound of what you're doing that just doesn't come through. And like I'm lucky,
Yeah,
I have an acoustic piano at home, but not everyone does, and so that you know that's also something that I'm sure would be tough.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm also a piano player. I think it would be hard, like with Zoom lag with voice, you're never singing that fast. But with piano, like, I feel like,
Hmm.
I don't know, I feel like Zoom wouldn't necessarily keep up with certain, like, especially technique, scales, and runs and stuff. I think that would probably be a challenge. I don't know if that's been your experience, if the lag has become an issue. But I
I
do think, go ahead.
well, I personally haven't experienced that.
Okay.
But also that's another thing where it totally depends. I think that's one of the really tough things about Zoom is that it's different for everybody, right? Like I I pay more money than I'd like to for a really solid internet connection this year because that's the year we have, and but I know not everyone can do that, and some people's internet is going to have a lot more lag. Because yeah, unfortunately, I can
Joanna, how's that
work faster
residence
from
Wi-Fi treating you?
Oh, it is good. No, it's a bit rough lately, especially. But
Yeah,
I've
I've seen
actually
a few
been,
emails.
yeah. I usually go to the practice rooms where on North where it's not so bad. I was just gonna say the only thing with voice is typically there's so much voice is a very embodied instrument. Well, obviously it's in your body, but there's a lot of voice lessons that's actually like very physical, and yeah, like even like contact sometimes, and like your breath and all of that stuff where it's kind of hard to see over Zoom. um, but yeah, that's not to take away from the struggles of the piano majors. No hate at all. I feel for the wind players because they have to like wear a mask with a hole in it and put their wind instrument through that, which is like, it's just yikes, big yikes. And I don't love that for them, but yeah, good voice crack, we love it. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. Unique struggles for everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely different depending on your internet and your space and your instrument and what kind of instrument you have. It's just it's so varied.
Is there one specific instrument that you guys wouldn't want to be trying to learn in this time?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would say just like trumpet or something where it's
Yeah,
like
Mm.
so because then you have to put a mute. I think you have to put like a stopper on it for like
yeah, I
music
really feel
reasons.
for the
And then you're
brass
playing like a
players.
muted trumpet all the time, which has a very unique sound. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I think those sorts of things I think would be difficult.
Hmm. Yeah, just because the sound is so different. Like with the piano, you know, if I'm wearing a mask or not, it's a piano. um,
Yeah, and the
and like
same.
obviously it's different for singing and stuff too. But yeah, with the brass, like you have to change the instrument itself, and like that seems pretty. That seems really tough.
I hadn't even thought about wind players with having to have a hole in your mask. That sounds wild. That
Oh,
Yeah,
sounds
I'm trying to envision it, and it's just a weird image I'm getting.
I have a mask with like a plastic panel in the middle that I put like dish soap on so it defogs. And that was good for when we did do in-person lessons and had to wear a mask. Um, but yeah, a lot of condensation. We don't, which the time it's limited to half an hour of wear before you got to take a break. So
Yeah.
interesting.
That's one thing that's nice about piano too is that we weren't limited because we weren't singing. We weren't limited to just half an hour. We could do 40-ish minutes, which is also just makes the whole thing a little bit. Well, depends on your lesson, but yeah, just a little bit easier.
Right. Well, it's
also,
probably. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, another benefit of like piano and voice are they're designed more to be solo instruments and violin and stuff. Whereas like
Yeah, there's way more solo
trombone,
rep.
no offense to trombone players, but no one really plays trombone on its own. um,
I played trombone in high school. I feel so connected to
amazing.
music
Yeah.
students. I didn't know any of the notes though.
That's
I just kind of guessed. I was like, this seems close enough.
well, that's what seems really difficult about trombone is it's a sliding scale, quite literally. So, um, yeah. So I think that is kind of hard because it feels very isolated. And I mean, even voice singing a cappella on your own is not really a thing that people do very often. So you still have to collaborate. But with violin and piano, you're good to go. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. I never really thought about I mean, I feel bad for saying it. I didn't think about the different experiences that different instruments and
No,
like
for
practices
sure.
would
I mean,
have.
why
Yeah.
would one think about that on a normal basis? So.
Um, a question, just a fun one that I was thinking about. As music students, I'm guessing you enjoy a good concert.
Yes.
Like, what would be your dream first concert? Like, the restrictions are lifted, the venues are open. Like, what's your first choice? Who are you seeing?
Okay, so not that
And
I'm
why is
part
it Metallica and you hop into the mosh pit? That's the
and yeah, okay. That's why is it Metallica? Yeah, good
Mhm.
question.
That's a really.
Oof. Uh, Liam, do you have an answer before I have an answer?
You know what? This is a bit of a weird answer. I'm actually a member of the Early Music Society here in Winnipeg, um, which consists a lovely group of people playing lutes and harpsichords and mostly recorders, a lot of recorders.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, I actually started as a recorder society, and I think in the '90s it switched to all early music. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, quite a large number of people in an elderly demographic playing recorders. It's wonderful. And so I really missed that because we didn't get to do it in the spring, and there's not much that brings more joy than going in April into a big old church and playing harpsichord and recording music with people just for the heck of it. Because it's just people doing it for fun. It's just soul music. It's just because people
nice.
love it.
That's such a good
Um,
answer.
so
Um,
that would be my dream is doing that again.
since we are discussing a music program that is mostly based in classical music, I will keep it to that because there are just too many in all other genres. I think I love choir music, and actually we were going to be participating in a performance of Beethoven's Ninth around this time of year, which is like a pretty epic. I hate that I just said epic, but I did. It's a pretty epic choral work, and would have been like really loud and really powerful. And also we were going to do some excerpts of a Bach Weihnachtsoratorium. So I think those would have been like sweet to see. I think it would just be good to like go to the symphony. But I'm trying to think if I had any canceled concert tickets. I had some opera tickets that were canceled. In 2016, my Kanye concert was canceled. That was a huge bummer.
Oh, not even pandemic related, but still sad.
It's so sad, and I'm still grieving. But now I unstand him, so it's fine. Whatever. We're actually discussing that in my history of gospel music course, so that's great. Anyway.
Kanye gets everywhere, doesn't he? That's great.
He does.
That's incredible. Yeah.
We talked about him. We talked about him in Christianity in the mass media too.
That's awesome. I love
Dan,
that.
what class did you hear about Kanye in?
Yeah, I actually heard about Kanye West from my intro to sociology class last year. That was the first time that I'm lying. I haven't even taken a sociology class. I don't know.
I'd be like, I could see Rod being into that, but like,
I just pulled a class out of thin air.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I don't know. I just like want to be in a loud space, whether that's classical loud or like rock loud or what have you. I think I just want to be like blasted, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that I've been keeping up with is I'm a soccer player. I'm keeping up with the soccer. And in England, they're lifting restrictions on having fans in the stadium. So they're bringing in maximum 2,000 people. And like this is like 70,000 capacity venues. But that's one of the games that I've seen live. The atmosphere is the best part about the game and being there live. I'll conflate that with concerts. And there is just such a change in the actual content that's going on when there is an audience there to view it. And I think that's something that every spectator thing is missing out on right now.
Yeah. Well, especially, I mean, I'm sure Joanna can attest to this. I haven't really done much performance recently, but like, especially as a performer, you get so much energy from your audience, and you bounce off them, and you respond to them. Well, if things are going well, but yeah, like that adds so much to the performance as well, and it's yeah. I mean, the little bit of just playing stuff for first stuff I've done, in my bedroom is really different as a performer. Yeah, it's hard to get a good energy and a good vibe going.
So do you go back to like your childhood practice? I don't know. I did this. I don't know if you guys did this, but you take all your stuffed animals and you line them up and you're like, I'm going to do a show for you. Like, or it's sports games. Dan, here you go. They've been cutting out like fans and putting them in the stadiums.
Yeah, they're called crowdies. Yeah.
So that would actually, I'm curious how effective. I think that would be kind of cool. To see how much that affects your adrenaline levels and stuff. To kind of try and imagine that. Yeah, I love like, okay, I like being the center of attention. I'm not going to lie to you. And so I kind of not having that, like, definitely like kills the fire a little bit of like energy to like perform and be spontaneous. And that sort of thing. There is still a little bit of that with Zoom, but it's just a very different experience. In a different way, it's more intimidating on Zoom because you're seeing everyone's face. If you're actually like doing some kind of concert on Zoom, which many people do, and or like even presentation for class, I've noticed this. I'm like, I can see everyone's reaction. This is so weird. Yeah, it kind of adds a unique challenge because like the nuances of people's faces, you see it, whereas a normal concert, it's all, you see the first 2 rows and nothing behind that. So that's kind of an interesting shift too. Except let's be honest, we're all just looking at ourselves in Zoom. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah. Honestly, I find that that's definitely true for classes, but both this interview and also the one I had last week, like I when I'm actually like super engaged in the conversation, I do actually I'm fully like I'm watching Joanna speak, I'm watching Liam speak, I'm watching Chloe speak, but you know, maybe not all the time in my Zoom classes.
That's true. When the attention kind of wanes a bit, then I do start kind of analyzing my own facial features.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very good measure of how engaged I am.
Oh, we have music students here. Hold up. How much does Chloe look like Eminem?
No.
That's all I'm gonna say.
So the
I've
first
just
time I'm
been-
physically gonna leave an
I'm gonna
interview.
say absolutely not.
Okay. Just, yeah. Okay,
That's so
back on
funny,
topic.
like-
I'm sorry.
No, I think it's mostly just the hair.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% the hair, but
Mhm.
I just like roasting her for that.
Yeah. fair
Anyway.
enough.
Every class we're in together on Zoom, he without fail will send me over the Zoom chat. It just says Chloe.jpg. You open it up, it is Eminem.
That's fantastic.
The
I
worst
send it to other
prank.
people too. You know?
I'm actually curious, how many of you non-music classes do your profs require you to have your video on?
Only my classes. I mean, none of my classes are required to have my video on. But that being said, I mean, I have a class with Canton Loepp, who is he talked about it last week in terms of he strongly advises people to have their camera on for a whole host of reasons. But that's the only one where it's like really kind of pushed.
Yeah.
What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Like none of my profs have come outright and been like, you have to have your camera on or else I'm gonna like mark you absent. It's just, and also it's really awkward if you're in a class of like 8 people and one person doesn't have their camera on, you're always like, why is your camera off? Like, what are you trying to hide? Like, what are you doing? So it's it's awkward when you're the one person out without your camera on. So
Totally.
it's kind of just like,
Yeah. I was just curious because a lot of my, at least like choir, it's like, it's a participation based course. So like you have to. I think most of my other courses, like it's been really strongly encouraged in my music courses too, but like not, I guess, required. But I was just curious if that, because I know there's some inconsistencies that some music profs have talked about, like they talk to their faculty co-workers, what's the word? And none of them are requiring it. And they're like, how can you teach to like a room of empty faces? And so I think that it's an interesting thing, and especially with music, because I find myself just like Zoom exhausted because I'm required to have my camera on. Yeah, so the classes where I don't have to, which is just my 8:30 class, which is amazing. Our favorite. Is like a real blessing because I just am in my bed then.
That's pretty nice. Usually when I don't have my camera on, I'm eating or something.
Yes. Or I'm straight up cooking.
Yep.
Making a full-on meal. Yeah.
I guess that's a perk of doing it through a laptop, but I can't really pick up my desktop monitor and throw it in the kitchen.
True.
I'm making it hard for myself, man.
So, one of the things that we've kind of touched on even now is the kind of the role that professors have been having for you guys in this pandemic time. But I'm curious if you guys, I know Liam mentioned a little bit that he's taught piano in the past. Have you guys done any teaching over Zoom yourselves?
Sorry. No, I haven't. I have also taught in the past a little bit, and but I have a lot of friends that teach for the CSMA, which is the Community School of Music at CMU. Yeah, it's an interesting time, especially holding the attention of little kids.
Yeah.
How different is that, Liam?
It's quite different. I mean, last spring I had about 40 students. And then I was teaching with Tauber Music, and then like after the pandemic hit, I went down to about 10 online. So most people just didn't stick with it, and most people just kind of quit. And then this year, starting here, I'm teaching on my own now, so I have 3 students, and they're all online. Just because it's, I have roommates and stuff, and it's just too much to doing in person. So yeah, I mean it's different. It's yeah. I don't want to say it's a struggle because like we get stuff done and learning is still happening and that's great, but it's happening a different way in a very different pace. And it feels like a different ball game, and yeah, it's there are some upsides. In that it's I don't know easier to share a link if I'm or to send sheet music across and make sure it gets printed and that kind of stuff, right? It's a bit easier. I can see my students' setups at home, which is really good. So it's really easy. Like, oh wow, you're sitting like, why are you sitting, 6 inches too low? And they're playing like Glenn Gould. It's like, okay, no, we gotta get you up, go grab some books. Most of my students are really young. Grab some books and send those, and okay, now you're actually at the right height, that kind of stuff, right? Whereas before, kind of like, okay, well, make sure you're at the right height at home. And hard to say, right? So that's kind of cool, but definitely the learning, it's starting to feel a bit fatigued in terms of keeping going, because some of these students have been online now since April. Then they took the summer off, and then they're back, and it's back online again, and it's just kind of slowing down. Just because I think, yeah, motivation is just not there in the same way that it was in March when it's like, all right, well, we'll see how this goes for 3 weeks, and then 6 months later.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads into kind of my final question. It's Yeah, I mean, I'm personally struggling with motivation in my classes because of this shift online. Um, but for you guys, is the fact that your area of study is something that I assume gives you joy to do? Uh, is that something that lets you kind of cut back on procrastination?
That's such a good question. I'm going to say a
It's a
hard
scary
no.
question.
I do not think that that assists in procrastination. I think because most of my motivation comes from the idea that, like, if I don't learn this, I'm going to perform it and not know it, and that will be terrible.
Mm,
And so, not having those goals, it's so easy to slack off and just not practice. And also, living alone and, North Campus feels very far away sometimes to go practice properly. So, I would say that that doesn't help, but that's a great point. And that leads into a whole conversation around like just studying music and trying to make money off it, like take out the joy out of it for some people, which it did for me for a while. And now it's kind of come back. But that is an interesting question.
I mean, I think definitely, yeah, with things like choir and stuff, it's like, oh, okay, the performances just aren't happening. It definitely takes out a lot of the air. It was kind of like, it's like, oh, great, and it's kind of deflating. To go, oh, okay, I guess the performances just aren't going to happen. Okay, I guess, okay, so I guess we'll do it, but you have to kind of find other reasons to do it, and that can take a while, I think, to kind of reckon with and reconcile with what you were doing before. Um, just the same way, because you're the reasons you're doing the music then have to be a different reason. It's not for the performance, then it's for something else. And I think yeah, it can be hard to find what that something else is.
mm.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I feel a little.
Do you have a something else?
Well, for me, I mean, I feel fortunate in that I was already kind of doing music on my own. I was doing music for quite a while on my own, even professionally, and so I kind of had um, that figured out for myself a little bit. And I was already used to doing a lot of work from home. I was composing and stuff, right? And so that's all from your home. I had a home studio setup and things like that, and so I was working from there. So I kind of had that for myself figured out. It kind of felt like going back to normal in a lot of ways. And especially with school, I wasn't coming so I could do the student performances. I was coming just so I could learn. It doesn't matter how I learn, how much. I'm just happy that I'm learning and progressing and getting to meet people and interact with people.
Mm.
So that was kind of pre-solved for me. So I feel very fortunate in that way. I mean, I guess it's probably very different for other people who are doing it and are at CMU for other kinds of musicking and other kinds of music learning.
Hmm. Yeah, for me, I think I feel like sometimes being alone and like practicing, there's opportunities to really try and push myself for me to push myself out of my comfort zone in terms of what I try, like expression wise, and just like in the types of songs that I'm learning. And so I think I can sometimes focus on just like growth as a musician. I mean, there's also like spiritual aspects for me too, that are like motivators personally as someone that practices Christianity. So yeah, I think those are all things that play into finding other reasons, but definitely for me, as someone that loves to perform, that is a big loss and takes a toll on my motivation for sure.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This has been a really, really enlightening, awesome conversation to have.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. This
Yeah.
is really wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good to like process my emotions low key.
And this was just a
Kinda
therapy
just working
session,
through
wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to hopefully more of that connection between the comm and the
I
music
love it.
students.
Let's make it happen.
It'd be great.
I think
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. You guys should take I mean, I guess it's not offered this year, but the radio team workshop. I bet there's a
I have my
bunch.
eye on that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a new way of
there's,
using your voice.
Yeah.
Love
Anyways, yeah, I guess we'll switch on to our next little segment, which is called Quick Wit. You guys are welcome to stick around. Basically, we'll just kind of talk about basically hot takes that we have, or little CMU things. Chloe and I have both brought one in to talk about. And you guys are welcome to stick around for that if you guys want to.
Yeah, you know what? I do actually have to head out, but I will
So
be
do
watching
I.
that segment. Yeah, and I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Well,
Awesome.
catch you later.
See you.
See you guys. Thank you.
Also on my way out. But yeah, thanks for having
Yep.
me.
Bye, Liam.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Liam. Take care. Awesome.
All right.
Well, thanks again to Liam and Joanna for stepping up, for joining us today. That was awesome.
Wonderful folks.
Yeah.
All right.
Chloe, do you want to start with your little quick wit segment?
I was going to make you start because I started last time.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine to start. Sure. Yeah.
I want you to start.
Okay. Mine is both a bit of a cop out and not quite a hot take, but okay, fine. I can make it into a hot take. I can make it into not a cop out and a hot take. How's that?
I'm ready.
I think, hold up. I think that all universities and colleges, CMU's size, should be checking in on their students with phone calls.
Ooh, I see.
Because that's what. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah,
I know
so
what you're saying.
one of the great things that happened this past week was I got a phone call from the lovely Joshua Ewert, who was part of Student Life, and I believe Student Life was sending out phone calls to all students to check
Every
in
student.
and see how everybody's doing, which that's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, we started in person and they did such a great job of making that work. And then when we go online, they're being very conscious of the effects that has and can have. And they're checking in on people. And even though I didn't feel like I needed any support, it was awesome to know that support was there and that they were very clearly offering that.
Yeah. I got a call from Heidi Nicewander Rempel, and it was amazing. Like, we chatted. She's like, okay, like, what kind of like mental health supports do you have at the moment? If you needed to go get COVID testing, do you know how to do that? And then she gave me all sorts of information, and it was just so nice knowing that there was someone I could call and ask questions to. I actually accidentally got 2 calls, so I got to talk to Heidi and Joshua Ewert.
You're special.
I'm so special. So yeah, it's like, it makes you feel really special. Also, we don't get a lot of phone calls these days, so I was
True.
like, my phone was ringing and I'm like, what is going on?
My caller display picked up and it said that it was Folio Cafe, and I was like, that's not right. That's just gotta be. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's not a hot take. That's just a wholesome take.
I mean, it's a wholesome take. but maybe I'm just throwing shade at other universities.
I like that.
The
Yeah.
CMU
Okay.
is so much better.
So
Sorry.
much better. Okay. That's good.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't take yours, did I?
No, you didn't.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
I'm also excited about this one. I came up with this one. Actually, I stole it from our good friend Matthew Paget. We were discussing the wonderful Instagram page called CMU Memes.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar.
I am familiar. Yeah.
Shout out to CMU Memes. They posted a meme, and it's a picture of Michael Scott from The Office saying, "I am fast. I am very fast." And the caption was, "When I'm walking from Marpeck to North Campus." And so the idea that we came up with is when we're back in person, we should have a timed race to see who can get from Marpeck to North on that sidewalk the fastest. Maybe with like a helmet and some pads because we know it gets slippery. But imagine that. Imagine just like sitting in folio, watching through the window as people are just booking it. Because you watch that anyways. Like sometimes when
it's
I was
true.
bored.
I love watching
semesters,
Matthew Parkinson run across all the time. It's great.
See,
Yep.
here's the thing. He would probably win.
Oh yeah, he would win. He's had so much practice with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. We should
But
make a prize.
I think we should make it into a competition.
I'm down.
Just
that
because I want to see
sounds pretty
people
great.
flying down that sidewalk.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I can't believe you roasted me for not having a hot take, for the take not to be hot, because I don't think anybody would be against this. Well, maybe some people in student life because, there might be injuries or something, but that's so secondary.
So here's the thought. We call up Sports and Rec and we're like, hey, we got this idea, and then they can get it going.
Yeah, I'm down. Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
Sports and Rec people, if you're watching this, there's an idea for you when school starts back up.
Yeah. Sorry,
January 13th now.
I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
And
email's
in
out.
person potentially on January 25th. So very exciting.
Huge
Keeping our
fingers
hopes
crossed.
up. So
Yep.
speaking of that, let's keep being safe. Let's flatten that curve, as they say. And
Again.
keep making those good choices, staying in,
Yeah.
wearing masks, doing what you gotta do.
I'd love to also potentially add here that I got an email a couple hours ago from Danielle Morton, the CMU commuter assistant head leader, whatever. And there's a CMU Discord server, which I think is a super cool idea because in this time where you can only hang out via the internet, I think Discord and Zoom are the two leading pioneers in that frame. So having a little CMU Discord server where we can hop in and chat about things and play games online together, I think that's a super cool idea. That is happening this Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, no
Tuesday
way.
at 7:30. That's I believe the goal. Yeah. So shout out.
Very cool.
Shout out the CMU commuter Discord server.
That's awesome.
Check it out. Yeah, check your emails. And with that, I guess that basically closes the show.
Thanks
Thank you
again
so
for
much for
tuning in.
Oh, wow,
that's
we're in
what I was
sync.
gonna
That's
say.
incredible. It's
Oh my
almost like
gosh.
we had to say something like that, very similar. Oh man.
Thanks for watching. Share it with your friends. Like, subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, hey, come on, it's going on a YouTube channel. Like,
Why not?
subscribe. According to YouTube statistics, only a small percentage of our viewers are actually subscribed. So if you guys want to, it's free. You can always unsubscribe if you like later. But
We're YouTubers now. I never imagined.
oh no, I hate that. Oh, I hate that.
Okay, bye guys.
See ya.